Good morning, everyone. It's a depending on where you are, wet morning for many of you, and less so in the north. We've got our really the most significant weather system of the upcoming week taking place here right now, and that'll be the case over the next day or so. But then looking at a cooler and drier type of pattern once we move into the weekend. But I want to start with the last week, and on the left-hand side here. Our mean temperatures for the past week, it was a warmer than normal week. You can see over virtually all of the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes region, especially in southern Michigan here. Our temperature departures in excess of 8 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. And on the right-hand side here, precipitation totals for the week. And you can see that there was continued heavy precipitation in northern sections of the state, also in the far southeastern corner of the state. You can see also some values down there in excess of 1 inch. But note that there's a large area across central lower Michigan here where there was actually less than, some cases, less than a tenth of an inch. Those areas were missed by a couple of the two weather systems that did move through. And as a result, we had a lot of activity going on. I noticed on the USDA NASA's update, we put 5% of the corn crop in the ground last week and 8% of the soybeans. So that's a fairly good week progress wise. So we're if you look at that relative to the at least the normals, we're actually a little bit ahead of normal. But last week for many people was a very fortuitous or a lot of opportunities here, and quite a bit was done. And that has that theme, of course, we'll talk about here, especially given the current weather system and where we are. One thing I did want to mention that is, and it almost, well, I debated whether to put this in or not. But if we look at our current soil moisture, this is for the top 3 feet of the soil profile. Even though we've done a little bit better, it's been wetter in many parts of the state, including parts of the south over the last several weeks. The moisture at the subsoil depths, so now we're looking down 2, 3 feet, is still below normal across the southern lower peninsula. And you can see that here in these percentiles. The greens and blues are excess, and that's definitely the case over many northern sections of the state. But as you go south, especially the southern half and into especially the Saginaw Valley area, relatively the driest area of the state, there's still, from the U.S. Drought Monitor, they're still calling that drought, which again, this time of the year is much less of a concern than it would be if it were later. But this is something to look at, and it does suggest, I think, overall, that recharge across certain portions of central and southern lower Michigan was less than it typically is at this time of the year. I think that's how you would interpret that, seeing a lot of those browns and so forth here. But for now, and for getting field work done and so forth, well, hopefully we'll bounce back after today's precipitation relatively quickly, and allow field work to resume, planting to resume quickly. Our degree day totals, this is again is a seasonal total beginning on March 1, and I add this here to really look at our overwintering crops, and perennial crops that overwinter here. And with the above normal temperatures, we did see a big jump in our base 50 totals above 200 across portions of the southern part of the state. But in contrast, in this crazy pattern that we've seen this year, notice up north, many areas less than 30. So it's a huge change from north to south as we look at, again, the overwintering crops. And on the right-hand side here, these are our seasonal accumulations relative to normal, with the blues being deficits or cooler than normal, and the reds being the opposite, warmer or surplus. And that pattern that we've seen all year, which is unusual for Michigan, you can see it's still behind, and this certainly is applicable to a lot of what Kim has talked about with our forages as they come out of dormancy and begin development, and et cetera, et cetera. They're later than normal or behind normal in the north, but they're ahead of normal in the south. That's again something we just don't see that often, but we certainly have this year. Well, our weather map here this morning, area of low pressure currently over northern Illinois with a warm front you can see stretching to the east of that. And that is basically our system of the day, and it's the most significant weather system we'll see in the upcoming week, and will lead to in many areas the most widespread precip we've had in a while across the state, especially across the south. The exception to this will be probably western and central upper Michigan, which have been notably wet, and or if they've actually some of the precipitation has fallen. It's still in frozen form. There's still snow on the ground in portions of upper Michigan. But this system will affect primarily, I think that we'll see the greatest totals here probably in central and maybe some northern parts of lower Michigan with as this system's going to move to the north and east right through west central and northern lower Michigan here over the next 12 hours. Looking here, this is a graphic I haven't shown you before, but on the left-hand side, we have the current weather map with our radar depiction here. So the greens, of course, are where precipitation is falling. And you can see, just like we just saw in the last map, there's a great deal of precip now, showers, a couple embedded rumbles of thunder here, but mostly just showers. And they're moving north and east into portions of central and northern lower Michigan here as we speak. But there's a lot more downstream. You can see in northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, eastern Iowa. That part of the precipitation is headed our way for certainly for the afternoon and the evening. On the right-hand side here, this is another new product here that this is the precip estimation for the last 24 hours. And so how much rain has fallen here? Most areas you can see across the southern roughly third of lower Michigan, we've seen a tenth or two. Here in my house in Hazlet, I measured at 6:30 about 12 hundredths of an inch to that, and that's fairly representative. Some areas have had a little bit more than that, but the bottom line is more is on the way. Especially there will be periods of showers and embedded thunder showers here pretty much all day into this evening. And by tonight, the weather map, you can see the low pressure moves closer really into Michigan. But also note here to our north and our west, there's another cold front. This is another Canadian air mass just to our north. We're going to see another little area, secondary area of low pressure form on that and move through northern parts of the state tomorrow. And so while today in places like Marquette and the western UP will probably just be cloudy and cool. We could almost call it cold, probably more appropriate. There will be an increasing chance for precip there by early tomorrow and continuing tomorrow. And for most of the state, we'll see some lingering showers also possible in the lower peninsula tomorrow. But most of the precipitation with the current weather system will probably be coming to an end by this time tomorrow morning. I would also note as well, tomorrow with that secondary area of low pressure, the best chances for precip tomorrow will be across upper Michigan. Some of that's going to probably fall once again in frozen form. They could even see some minor accumulations up there once again. So winter has still not given up there, and that crazy pattern we have with cold north and warm south continues. But overall, we will see gradually that cold air from Canada move into the state here during the day tomorrow, and at least for the first part of the weekend. Here's the weather map here for Friday morning at 8 o'clock. And again, you can see that secondary area of low pressure up over northern Wisconsin. Some strange colors there. Again, that's relating to mixed or even frozen precipitation occurring at that time with some lingering showers across the south. And then finally, by Saturday morning here, high pressure moves in, but note to our south, down over the Ohio Valley, another area of low pressure is forecast to right up along a frontal boundary, and that will keep a fair amount of clouds, especially across the southern part of the state, for most of the weekend, certainly for the southern half of the state. On Saturday and Sunday, there may be some light rain in the far south, especially the southeastern corner of the state, during the day on Sunday, and then again on Monday. But not looking at any kind of a major weather system, but that is actually part of our forecast, which has changed over the last day or so, and it's looking more likely that some of those raindrops and showers with that southern system may make it into southern lower Michigan. Most of the rest of the state will be partly cloudy to partly sunny both Saturday and Sunday and cool. So we'll see our high temperatures today from the low 40s north to the mid and upper 60s. Still a warm day across the south as that low pressure moves through the state. And then tomorrow cooling down to the 40s and 50s. The same on Saturday, and then a gradual warming trend beginning on Sunday and into early next week. We're not going to be really warm, but still moving back into the 60s and maybe some low 70s again by the early part of next week. The terms of precipitation here over the week, upcoming week, most areas certainly a solid quarter to half inch with higher totals across northern and west central, especially lower Michigan. We'll probably see some 1 inch totals there, and we may see in those again those drier areas that we've had in the east central part of the state. This will probably be the most significant rainfall they've had in a while. Looking for at least a half an inch there. So there will be some delays coming up, but hopefully they won't take too long. Or won't be too long because we are then seeing a drying trend as we move into most of next week. No major weather systems at this point on the scope here radar for the distant future for the upcoming week. Today is the biggest. Most of this precipitation you see here is what falls today over the next 24 hours. So let's move and shift gears, go out a little bit, and there's a very consistent message here. And so both the 6 to 10 day and the 8 to 14 day outlooks call for the formation of a big upper air ridge. This is here on the left-hand side here. You can see that over the Midwest, and that's a very, very strong likelihood or leads to warmer than normal conditions and also drier than normal conditions as well. And that is right now, that's the theme, the overwhelming theme in the medium and even a little bit longer than that type of time frame. So on the right-hand side, you can see strongly for the Great Lakes and for the upper Midwest, much or certainly above normal mean temperatures and below normal precipitation totals. Same thing for the 8 to 14 day outlook. And finally, here an updated May outlook. This was just updated yesterday on the top. Not surprisingly, given what you just saw, our May outlook has now shifted from pretty much a no direction to warmer and drier. And it's the reason why is what the guidance you just saw. So the bottom line here again, in the medium range, we are moving into a warm and dry periods type of pattern, and that should bode really, really well, at least for field work and getting things done here over the next few weeks. And that begins in earnest, I think, by the latter part of next week and then beyond. And so I'll stop or wrap up the weather here this morning with that.